Hey, I'm Dan, and this is Dan's Planes. Alright, this is the Something Extra motor installation 2.0. So I had the first motor, and it came this way, which notice the mounting bracket here and the shaft here. So it should have or could have been mounted this way, or you could do what I did, which was turn this around and press the shaft through to make the shaft come on this side, to then mount it this way, which is how I had it. But the motor was really loud. It sounded like maybe the bearings were bad. I don't know if it was something I did with pressing this through, because it didn't press using a drill press. So I then slightly tapped it with a hammer, and then slightly tapped it with a sledgehammer to finally get it to go through. So I don't know if I hosed something up or not, or if it's just a loud motor. So this time around, instead of doing that, I'm going to leave it as it came from the factory, and I'm going to mount it this way. But the problem we have is, for the prop to clear, because this is the prop assembly, for the prop to clear, this motor has to go out about 1¼ inches further than these offsets already go out. Now, maybe I could buy longer offsets, but these were already so long, I felt a little worried about them being strong enough to support the motor. But I checked through all my other offsets. I don't have any that are either skinny enough with 440 bolts or long enough. So one thing I could do is to build another box coming off of this firewall, and then remount these guys. Something else I can do, which after chewing on this for a while I think is the way I'm going to go, is to add 1¼ inch out, like say here, put in a cross brace of a new firewall, and then mount these on that new firewall. The problem I'm going to have is trying to get the blind nuts and the bolts put in the backside of it, because I've got this firewall here. So I could build the new firewall, build the blocks, put these on there already while it's out of the airplane. So then when I glue it in, these will already be set in there. Having thread lock in them, they shouldn't come loose again, but if they ever did, I would be stuck on how to get them back out again. Another thought I had was to enlarge these holes, the 4 holes here, so that way I could at least get the the 440 tool in there, the ball driver, to tighten them if I have to, or remove it if I have to, or do whatever. So that's the problem that we're up against. That's what I need to do. I don't know if this firewall was built with a forward down right thrust angle, but what I can do is put the new firewall in there and use 1¼ inch spacers, one on each corner, to fit it in, and that should mimic the angle that this firewall is put in. Another way would be just put it in straight, to then use washers on the opposite corner, the top left, so the motor would be tilted to the bottom right. So I'm not sure which one I'll do yet, but first step is removing these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and give an update in a minute. The spacers or the offsets are out. Those were fun. Just had to use a standard Allen wrench rather than a ball driver because I think I stripped my ball driver in trying to get one of them unscrewed, which I guess that's good because the thread locker worked. So now I've found another piece of 3/16 inch thick plywood, which is the same that this firewall is made out of. So I'm going to make my new firewall. I've got the top marked out on that. Now I get to use my Christmas present, my new micro saw again. Getting a lot of use out of this since Christmas. Here we go. I've cut 2 spacers, 1 1/4 inch, just to line up the bottom new firewall where it goes. And then I'll have markings on the top, so I'll align them that way. I also put it in to test fit it, drew lines down so I can see what monocoat, how much monocoat to remove, and keep in mind I got to remove another 1/4 inch on either side of those lines because we're going to be gluing in corner stock or epoxying in corner stock. So now I got to take that monocoat off. I removed the monocoat. That went easier than I thought, so glad for that. Now I've drawn an X from corner to corner on the new firewall, making sure I've got B for the bottom so I know what I'm doing here. Then I put this on top until in all 4 of the holes I see the line going through the center of the holes. Then I used a mechanical pencil with a pointy tip to get inside the circles and color them out. So now that's where I've got to drill, put in blind nuts, and then install these guys. So that's what's going to be next. Set that up on my drill press since I got to do 4 holes. May as well do it on the drill press, make sure they're straight. All right, that's all for now. The firewall is now high sawed in, along with the 1/4 round I put in for support. So now, gotta wait at least an hour. 24 hours to full cure, but wait at least an hour for it to be handleable. So next step will be putting on the motor. Oh, I see something I just screwed up. I didn't put a hole in here for the ESC to go through. I hope my drill and drill bit will fit into there. Knew I was forgetting something. God, why is it when you finish something, that's when it hits you? I think the drill bit's going to be long enough. It'll make it through there. So put the motor back on. Then we're going to have to re-CG this since we have offset the motor and the new firewall has been added. So I'm sure there's no further back I can put the battery because it goes up against the rubber band that keeps the 2 wings together. So I'm probably going to have to add tail weight to it. This might be my first airplane with tail weight. So that's all for now. Next update after the motor's on and ready to balance. Here I've started to put the motor in. It's been 2.5 hours, so high sol is cured enough. And the motor is too big to fit within that with those offsets. So building that whole fuselage or firewall and supports and everything and all that work was for naught. So my option is get another motor that's smaller. This is supposed to be a, what size? 0.6, so 60 size glow engine. So I could go down to 40 or 50, which this model is supposed to have a 45 or 52, somewhere in there. Which means I'll most likely have to rip out what I just put in there to then go back to, well, no, let me back up a second. If I get the smaller motor that would fit in here, then I could mount it this same way, if it comes this way, not having to reverse the shaft. So I could mount it in here and hopefully that would fit. Otherwise, I'm going to have to switch the shaft on this if I can't return the motor. And after I switch the shaft, I would have to go back to this firewall, so I'd have to rip this out. I really wanted to do more 3D maneuvers that I found difficult to do with my 46AX and my 52 Evolution on my past Something Extras. So that's why I went up to the beefier motor. But now it's kind of biting me in the butt. So I don't know if he'll return this or not. I'll have to call him tomorrow. But I halfway want to rip out this stuff before it's completely cured, because I don't know how I'll rip it out otherwise. I don't know how I would get a saw in there. Oh man, good times. I'm gonna think about this. Good news, I was able to slowly wiggle out the new firewall I put in. So I don't know where the firewall would need to be if I get a new motor, if the motor's even going to fit inside these 4 posts or not. I don't know. But at least I don't have to worry about how I would get that out. If I ever want to put it back in, I can still put it back in. Just sand the edges, sand the glue off and get it back in there. So at least that problem's taken care of. Now I need to think about the motor. I wasn't able to get a hold of Alex at Value Hobby. But what I've done is I've put the motor as is with the shaft backwards back in the Something Extra, so I could hear it from the factory how loud it sounds before I try to reverse the shaft, because I wasn't sure last time if by reversing the shaft I was causing the loudness. Here's how loud it is. Pretty darn loud. I think it's just the frequency that it's at, so I'm gonna reverse the shaft, take the motor off, reverse the shaft again, and just put up with the noise and go that route. What a big circle to come back to the same thing. Sigh. Alright, again I tried to move the shaft with my drill press. That wasn't going to happen. So I used the sledgehammer. Now it sounds different for sure, but actually I don't think it's as loud. Here's what it sounds like. So kind of gnarly on the lower end. But it lost that real high pitch that it used to sound like. So I think we're going to go with this. I'm trying to get it ready for Joe Knoll. So I think we're golden now. Should be good to go. Wish me luck.
All right, what's the story with this flight?
This is going to be the Re-maiden after getting a new motor and putting it in. So it's the same motor, so everything should be the same. Should be okay, but we know should be's.
So this one's not going to make the funny noise that the other one was?
No, but it's still kind of loud.
Okay.
I tested it before I moved the shaft, and it was decently loud. And then I moved the shaft, and it was a little louder, but not much louder. So it's, I think, just loud in general.
All right.
So this will be the test.
Cool. Let's get her done.
Woo! Okay, need a lot of down trim. Why do I need a lot of down trim? I mean, I need a ton of down trim. Wow. Hey. That's not all wind. Acting like it's tail heavy.
Is it?
Shouldn't be. Dude, any throttling just pitches up severely.
Did you check the CG before you took off?
I did not.
Might be a good idea to bring it down and check it out then.
Yes.
If it's acting significantly different than it was.
Sure is. Sorry for the abrupt ending. My phone camera errored out, which it's been doing frequently, and I don't know why. So the flight was a bit harrowing. I didn't know what was happening. Come to find out, both the rudder and the elevator were not set at neutral when at neutral trim. I think it's because the nylon may have expanded, because the way they were off was, if it would have expanded, it would have pushed them in that direction that they were off. And I've heard that heat will make them expand. So I went back and set those as neutral. The elevator, I had to move the servo arm. I couldn't move the clevis at the control horn on the elevator itself because it was already screwed in as far as it could physically go. The rudder, I was able to screw that in at the rudder, so that worked. I had a second and third flight, and they went much better. It didn't act the way it did. I was able to land it, obviously, after that first flight that the video cut off. So thankfully landed that without any damage, and had a second and third flight. I think what was throwing it off was the rudder, making it dive in a certain direction. But now all is okay, and now I can fly it, and it flies normal. So we're now good to go with the Somethin Extra number 3 motor 2.0. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I definitely appreciate it. It helps me out. And if you'd like to chip in towards me upgrading a camera and my sound equipment, you're welcome to check out my Patreon under the description. If not, that's okay too. I hope you find blue skies and good speed.